All right, everybody, it is Thursday, so that means I am joined by Matt Lowe, the owner of lowdownsports.com. We're about to preview and talk about a bunch of good stuff. Preview week 10 in the SEC. I cannot believe we've gotten to week 10. But Matt, it's always good to see you here on our weekly visits previewing these games.
Yeah, Phillip, it's always good to be with you, man. It's hard to believe that it's already the beginning of November, but it is what it is. College football has flown by so far.
Yeah, I know. Just a few weeks we'll be in Thanksgiving, and that will be the last week of the season, and then the SEC championship. Yeah, it's right around the corner, and this without a doubt. I mean, we thought the week Alabama and Tennessee played was big. We've had some big weekends. This is the biggest weekend of the season in the SEC, maybe in the country, maybe nationally. I mean, these two matchups we're going to talk about toward the end of the show. I mean, this is as big as it gets this year.
Yeah, and there's still a lot on the line. I mean, and it's going to be interesting because you have it's pretty cool to me though at this stage in the game that Tennessee and Georgia, two teams in the East. I mean, they're in the top five right now. I mean, that's pretty cool. And normally the narrative has been the SEC West for so many years, and now it's the East. So, and they're still. I mean, the SEC West is still up for grabs too. So it's good to see some new teams kind of in the mix.
Yeah, it is. And of course, I think that at least early in the week, that has overshadowed those games talking about it is obviously Monday. Auburn fired Bryan Harsin. They also got the new AD coming in from Mississippi State, John Cohen. And I've talked about this a lot this week on this show and other shows and articles and stuff. But Matt, what was your reaction to the news on Monday, and what do you think Auburn does next?
Well, I think it was a step-by-step process, and the first thing they needed to do was secure the AD, which they did with Cohen. I mean, and I like the fact that the guy has played sports. He succeeded as a coach. I think that's what you look for. You need to have somebody run an athletic department that's at least played ball before. So that's a good thing, and I think getting him in was a good thing. As far as the timing of the hire, I mean, I thought it probably should have been done a couple of weeks ago, but I think Auburn gave him enough chances, and let's face it, I mean, this was kind of a disaster from the get-go. So, moving forward, I mean, we'll see what Carnell Williams does. If anything, it kind of maybe can rejuvenate your team a little bit to see if you can maybe get 2 or 3 more wins. I don't know if I see that happening right now with this team, but if anything, it could give them a spark to ride out the season with.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting with him because he's never done this before. Has no experience being a head coach. Of course, they shook things up with the coaching staff too this week. A lot of them were Boise guys that were with Bryan Harsin, and there's been the list out there, and a lot of people are saying that Lane Kiffin would be the top target. Deion Sanders is out there. Hugh Freeze's name is mentioned. I think Jeff Grimes and Matt Rule. What direction you think they should go with the next coach? Now, I think that a guy like Lane Kiffin, not necessarily Lane Kiffin, a portal guy, it would be huge to rebuild this roster because they're going to need that. But of those names, or just any direction, not necessarily a name, how do you think they should go with this?
I think those are all good names. I mean, but I think the $1 million question is now that Auburn has gotten a reputation as far as the boosters are concerned with meddling in the program. Is that going to be a deciding factor for a guy like Deion Sanders or Lane Kiffin to come in? And you got to think about this too. Is Deion Sanders? I think their team's undefeated. And,
Mm-hmm.
they're playing for a championship. Lane Kiffin's still in the running for a championship. I don't think these coaches are going to just drop what they're doing and come to Auburn. And there's a timeline there where you need to solidify a coach because of the recruiting. The early signing day, I think it's in mid-December. So that's a month and a half away. So you're going to need to get a guy secure or on board, or at least announce somebody who you've hired and, allow them to coach through a season. And there's also a guy like Dan Mullins out there, and Jeff Collins was his defensive coordinator at Mississippi State. So you could have that combo right there come in and be in your program pretty quickly. Bill Clark, of course, he had the medical problems. I mean, he could be an option. I mean, I don't know. But I will say this, Phillip, I think the coach that they hire needs to know where the football players are in the South.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a major factor, is having familiarity with high schools in the South that produce good football players. I'm talking over there in Southwest Georgia, in Atlanta area, in the Panhandle, that know how to recruit players. I mean, and I do think this needs to be an offensive minded hire. I mean, I said it the other day. I think there was 18 teams and they were scoring 40 points or more, and 14 of them were in the top 25.
Mm-hmm.
So today's college football is so centered around offense. I mean, the rules on defense are centered for the offense. It's catered to the offense. So I think that has to be the priority. I think recruiting and scoring points and an exciting brand of football has to be that has to be the focal point here. And the one thing that I do like about Lane, you're talking about a guy that's coached at USC, he's coached the Oakland Raiders, he's coached Tennessee, he's coached Florida Atlantic, he's been Nick Saban's offensive coordinator, and now he's succeeding at Ole Miss. That's a lot of experience, and the guy's only 40-something years old.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so he's pretty much entering the prime of his career. So I think that's one thing about Lane Kiffin that's really intriguing. He has all that experience in big-time programs. We've seen the guy can recruit players, and when he gets to players, he does well with them. So I think he's probably the number one guy out there, sure. And Deion Sanders, he's very intriguing because they have the new football facility. His name just attracts players in itself. I think if you got Deion Sanders, with the new facility down there and his recruiting prowess, I mean, I think that's an intriguing thing. And plus, he's having him and Nick Saban on the Aflac commercials. I mean, wow, that would add some punch to that, wouldn't it?
I've thought about that. If you go with Lane or Deion, it just has an interesting development with the Iron Bowl and the Alabama-Auburn rivalry, for sure. And real quickly before we jump into these games for the SEC this week, the college football rankings, the first ones came out on Tuesday night, and for people that haven't seen them, you had Tennessee at number 1, Ohio State at 2, Georgia at 3, Clemson at 4, Michigan at 5. Alabama at 6, TCU at 7, Oregon at 8, USC at 9, LSU 10, and just round out with the SEC. Ole Miss at 11. Just with those rankings, what sticks out to you the most?
Well, SEC. Yeah, I mean, it's the straw that stirs the drink, man. But we still got a lot of football left to be played. I mean, I think I like what they did by putting Tennessee up there in front. Now, if Georgia wins, I mean, they're going to jump up front, because if they beat Tennessee and Oregon, who's playing about as good as anybody, that's about the two most impressive wins you can have. I mean, so one team that's really kind of intriguing to me that seems like they're not getting a lot of plays, Michigan. I mean, Michigan's a good football team, and everybody just seems to think that that's just a gimme win for Ohio State. But I don't know about all that, and I don't think Clemson's that great. I think they play Notre Dame this weekend.
Yeah, they got Notre Dame coming up. I mean, I agree with you. When I saw the rankings, I'm like, okay. And I think what they did, I think they said this, that Clemson's got all those wins versus ranked teams, NC State, Wake, and Syracuse. But when you watch the two teams play, you can tell Michigan's the better team.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, and Alabama, I mean, they lost to the top team. I mean, were they number 6, something like that? So they're in position of, but the Alabama LSU game. I mean, Alabama LSU game this weekend. I mean, that's going to decide who moves up there. I mean, and of course, a couple of weeks ago, actually, week 2, Brian Kelly was not a good coach at LSU. He was going to, why do we hire this guy or this and that? But, I watched an interview with him today, and he was just talking about the consistency with players and how, preparation and using when you have talented kids and how well that starts developing and starts creating a culture, and he's doing that, and LSU is getting better. So it would not surprise me at all one bit if LSU beats Alabama this weekend, especially the way Alabama's secondary has been playing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to get into that one in just a bit. And let's jump into the games. I'll let the audience know what we're going to do here. We have 7 games. We've had 5 the last couple weeks of doing this, but some teams are coming off weeks. So the bulk of them, there'll be more rapid fire picks, just kind of go through them kind of quickly. But then when we get to the 2 big ones for this weekend, we'll go in depth with Tennessee, Georgia, and then Alabama and LSU. And we're going to go in order that these games are played. This is, like I said, an interesting weekend. Kentucky at 5-3. They'll be at 4-4. Missouri. This is 11 o'clock Central Time over on the SEC Network. Kentucky is only a 1.5 point favorite here. I'll tell you what, Matt. We talked about Missouri, and you were right on spot last week. You picked Missouri to beat South Carolina. I went with South Carolina. Missouri did not turn the ball over, and defensively, they stopped South Carolina's running game. And then South Carolina, obviously, with Spencer Rattler, had some turnovers. I think this game is very interesting. I'm going to go with Kentucky, but I think this is going to be this could be close. But because Missouri can play that way, take Rodriguez out of the game. Will Levis threw 3 interceptions last week. He has shown he can turn the ball over despite how talented he is. This is a sneaky game, and at 11 o'clock, I think it's a dangerous game for Kentucky going in this one.
Yeah, no doubt. And Missouri's record could be vastly different if they'd have pulled out some close games. And you're right about their defense is legit. They got a good defense. And I think this is when you look at this game, Kentucky kind of feeds into what Missouri does well on defense. So I'm going to roll with them again, man. I mean, I like Brady Cook, and the thing is, he's a good player when he doesn't turn the ball over. And look, we've talked about it all year long. I mean, turning the ball over leads to losses, especially in the league that we watch and monitor a lot. So I'm going to go with Missouri in the upset here. I'm going to say low-scoring game, 24-20.
Yeah, I was on the score there. I probably got like Kentucky, like a 2017. And you're right. Missouri, I mean, they should have beat Auburn. I mean, we know that. I mean, and they had Georgia on the ropes. They hung in there with Florida. I mean, so they turnovers what got them against Florida. I mean, they've been in pretty much every game. The only game they really haven't been in was that Kansas State game, which we talked about a couple weeks ago. So yeah, I mean, I'm like I said, I'm picking Kentucky, but I'm not confident with it. I'm not 100% sold on it. I wouldn't be shocked on Saturday if Missouri to pull this one out.
Hey, and we just saw what Kansas State can do at home to somebody. I mean, they whooped Oklahoma State like a rag doll.
I know I had to keep checking. I checked my phone and I was looking at the ticker at the bottom of the game. I was watching. I'm like, that's got to be wrong, but it wasn't. It was a dominant victory for Kansas State in that one. So another 11 o'clock game on Saturday, and this is a big game for both teams. Both teams need this win, one more than the other. Florida at 4-4 at 3-5. Texas A&M, another 11 o'clock game on. This will be on ESPN. A&M comes in here as a 3.5 point favorite. Just I think this is a game that both teams need. They both need a win here. Florida doesn't need to drop to 4-5, and A&M desperately needs a win. I think they showed some, despite the loss to Ole Miss. I think they showed some things offensively. Connor Wegman played really well, 28 of 44, 338, and 4 touchdowns. They got some receivers going with Moose Muhammad and Evan Stewart. But when you look at this game, what do you think are the keys, and how do you see it playing out?
I think you just hit it right there. I mean, I think the key for A&M all along has been the quarterback play. I mean, their defense is pretty good. I mean, and Muhammad, the Muhammad kid's a good player. And the freshman receiver, what was his name?
Evan Stewart.
Yeah, he's a good player too. So they need to get those guys the ball more. I mean, I don't know. I think the quarterback has been the missing link at A&M, and I just have to. Florida coming into this game, I just have to think about their mindset. The weather could come into play here in this game. Could be some rain. But Florida's defense hadn't really showed me anything, and I'm gonna go with A&M to get a win here and crawl in a little closer to 500. So I'm gonna go A&M. I think this will be a pretty high scoring game. I'm gonna go 30-31 to Florida 28. Actually, 31 to 27.
I'm with you on this one. I'm picking A&M to win this one because, and also I'll look at this too. Florida can't stop the run. They are not a good run defense. I think Devin Achane is going to have a big day too as well. it's going to be one of these games where Anthony Richardson's going to have to be Superman, I think, going into this. And it is, like I said, it is in Texas at Texas A&M. Now, I will say this, though, and I was shocked against Ole Miss, Matt. I was shocked. Okay, we know Ole Miss is the best rushing team in the conference. They rushed for 390 yards on A&M. So I want to see, and A&M has not been that team this year. They've been a really solid defense all year. We talk about that every week. That's one thing that sticks out to me, but I'm going to go with A&M here, but I just think they're going to be able to control the game, throwing, passing, and high scoring. I'm kind of with you on that too, but I'll probably go with A&M maybe like 27 to 24, somewhere in there. But yeah, I just don't trust, and I agree with you. I don't trust this Florida defense in this game. And and obviously it's big for Jimbo. Jimbo needs this win. I mean, it's huge for him.
Yeah, he loses this game. Somebody might light the 86 million on fire. I mean, somebody might light it out there. One of these oil moguls out there. But yeah, if he loses this one, I think he's in trouble.
Yeah. They the vultures will be surrounding the stadium, to say the least, if he goes to 3-6. Then at 3:00 on the SEC Network, we got Liberty at 7-1. Their only loss, I think, was 1 point to Wake Forest, playing 5-3 Arkansas. Arkansas, they are a 13.5-point favorite. The over/under is 63. Liberty's coming off a 41-14 win over BYU, of course, a couple of weeks. Arkansas beat them. They had 38 unanswered points. Did beat Liberty in this one. Perhaps the future Auburn head coach Hugh Freeze featuring this game. We'll see how that goes. He's done a really good job there. I guess I just don't. I'll be honest. I'll be honest with the audience here. I'm not super familiar with Liberty. I haven't really watched them play much this season. I know they're a good team. They have a good offense, and Hugh Freeze has done really good there. They, their quarterback Jonathan Bennett likes to run and pass the ball, and then D.D. Hunter against BYU had 217 yards rushing. I feel like this is going to be a high-scoring game between the two. A lot of points scored. We know Arkansas is not good defensively. I think I'll probably go Arkansas like 41-31.
Yeah, and I think Arkansas. I think they needed the bye week, a couple of weeks ago, and they looked a lot fresher last weekend against Auburn. And Liberty at times this year has had trouble turning the ball over. And I think this could be a spot where that happens. Once again, maybe some rain in the forecast. But I think KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders in that running game are going to be too much. I'll go Arkansas big here. I say 45-20.
Okay. I have it a little bit closer than you, but we're both going with the Razorbacks on this one, and they'll get 6-3, so that'll be big for them too as well, and kind of turn things around after they kind of hit that slide there after the 3-0 start. I don't think we'll spend much time on this one, but 5-3 South Carolina at 3-5 Vanderbilt, 6:30 on the SEC Network. South Carolina, they are a 7-point favorite. The over/under this game is 48.5. South Carolina they got in the top 25 last week, and then they got beat by Missouri 20-10. They struggled running the ball. Spencer Rattler did turn the ball over twice in that one. Vanderbilt's lost 4 in a row. They're not good. I think South Carolina, they make some plays. I think they win this game probably like a 24-10, something like that, and get bowl eligible.
Not so fast.
I do that to everybody on here, but I've never had it done to me. But that is awesome. I appreciate that.
The one game Vandy could pull out here at the end is against the Gamecocks, Phillip. At night, the roaring crowd will be going crazy. A.J. Mann is going to go off against South Carolina's defense. I like Vandy pulling the shocker. 31-28. Spencer Rattler turns the ball over about 3 times. And that's been the story of the Gamecocks season.
Okay, I got you. Now, the only thing I gotta gripe with you on your pick, on your preview there, Matt. The roaring crowd in Vanderbilt. So I'm just saying,
they're gonna have it packed out up there.
Yeah, but they're all gonna be South Carolina fans.
Well, they'll all be crying at the Heartbreak Hotel when the game's over, Phillip.
Okay. Okay, I like it. Somebody got me with the.
Hey, they almost got Missouri. They almost got Missouri a couple of weeks ago, and they played Ole Miss tight there for a little while. So if it wasn't for a last-second TD covering the spread there, that would have been a lot tighter game as well.
That is true. They have shown signs. They
Shown
are better.
signs.
It's hard. You look at it. You look at 3-5. They've lost 4 games in a row after a 3-1 start, and you see tonight Vanderbilt, and you tell people, "Well, Vanderbilt's improved." You're like, "Oh, they're 3-5 and they're winless in the SEC," but you can see it on the field with Cartley. They are improving. It's just this is a long build for him, but they are better than where they were last year.
And look, I think that's what, if you can see it and fans can see it, that's what you want out of your program. I mean, yeah, well, they didn't win a game for 2 years. I mean, you can't you got to make progress, and I think I'm seeing the progress. So that's why, I mean, as long as you're seeing improvement, the coach is doing a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. And be interested to see how this thing goes. Goes year 3. That'll be very interesting to see how they're going next year, 2023. So, and then the final game before we get to the 2 big ones, 3-5 Auburn, the head coaching debut of Carnell Cadillac Williams at Mississippi State. They're 5-3. They're coming off 2 straight losses. This is 6:30. This is a ESPN 2 matchup. Mississippi State is a 13-point favorite, over under 51.5. I expect a lot of energy from Auburn in this one. I believe they're going to come out, and they've played hard under Harsin all year. There's not been a game this year I didn't think they didn't play hard. But I think under Cadillac, now I kind of wonder, are they going to run the ball about 50 to 60 times on Saturday night with Cadillac as the head coach? But I think Auburn's going to play hard. Going to Starkville is tough. I don't know if Auburn's going to have enough offensive firepower in this one, and Mississippi State's lost 2 games in a row. I think Mississippi State wins a close game here, maybe like 24-17, 27-24. I think it's a close game, and Auburn plays hard, but it's going to be interesting how they react. But I think Mississippi State will probably find a way to win at the end.
Yeah, and I mean, once again, it goes back to, I've said this before, what the hell is going on with Mike Leach's offense? I mean, like, they go from looking great until now, and now they can't score points. It's like, what? I don't understand what they're trying to do, to be honest with you. And then, and it goes back to you drive down the field 12 plays on Alabama. You get inside the, 25-yard line as 4th, and why don't you kick a field goal? Why don't you take a lead? Why don't you give your team momentum? So I'm with you here. I don't think Auburn's any good, of course. I mean, but, I think they hang around in this game. I'll still give the edge to Mississippi State to win, but, Auburn probably remembers they were up on those guys 28 points last year and were in control of the game. I think that's going to come into play a little bit. And I think Carnell Williams will fire him up a little bit. And I think you'll see some things different offensively. Now, are we going to see the triple option offense? I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's what they need to do with the guys they have in the backfield. But I think Auburn hangs around. But I'll give the edge here to Mississippi State. I think this will probably be a low-scoring game. I'll say 27-24. Actually 26-23 Mississippi State.
Okay. Yeah, so it'll be interesting. We'll see. If Auburn's going to make a bowl, they've got to win the next 3 because they're not beating Alabama. We know that. And they've got to beat A&M and then Western Kentucky the next 3. So I'm just throw this out there before we jump into the Tennessee-Georgia game. Just say they got to a bowl. I know Cadillac's not going to get the job. We know that. But how big would that be for him if somehow they pulled that off?
I think it'd be great. I mean, Cadillac's a fiery guy. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Auburn's running back recruiting. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would think that whoever comes in as the new coach is going to keep him on the staff. I mean, I think they'd be dumb not to. But yeah, I think it'd be great. I mean, and maybe it's what Auburn needed because I mean, nothing was changing. Another thing that I've noticed too is what's happened to Anders Carlson kicking the ball. I mean, he was a pretty reliable kicker there, but he's just not looked good. And you signed the Cincinnati Bengals. His brother, I think he was the number 1 kicker in the country. I mean, put him out there. Let's see some new players. I mean, if you're to the point of the season now, I mean, the same old guys you're running out there, run out some new guys and let's see what they can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've been kind of wondering that myself with Anders. I mean, he just hasn't been the same kicker since he's come back from that injury. So now we jump into the 2 big games. I know that's what everybody's been looking forward to. First up, the biggest game. Number 1 Tennessee at number 3 Georgia in this one. This is the CBS game at 2:30. Georgia's an 8-point favorite, but I think this thing started. They like was a 2-touchdown favorite on the start. It's come down. The over/under in this game is 66. And and obviously Georgia got some bad news this week. They're not going to have Nolan Smith rest of the year, and I think that's huge, especially going into this game going against the Tennessee offense. Tennessee is nobody stopped them all year. No one's been able to. So when you look at this game, Matt, what's the biggest keys of this game? And do you think we talked about this off the air a little bit, the rankings. Now we know that Georgia stays focused. They were going to stay focused regardless, but I kind of do wonder now. Will Kirby Smart and the staff use that they were ranked 3 and Tennessee's number 1 as a little extra motivation?
Sure. Kirby always uses any kind of motivation he can. I mean, that's just he learned that from Coach Saban. I mean, so yeah, for sure. I mean, that's a big loss, though, Nolan Smith. And you got Jalen Carter banged up, Christopher Smith, their fine safeties a little nicked up. Look, I said this on my lowdown last week. When you look at Tennessee's offense, everybody talks about the passing. And, of course, they spread you across the field. They got guys spread out wide all across the field. But to me, the biggest thing that you need to do with Tennessee is stop their run game.
Mm-hmm.
If you stop their run game and kind of make them one-dimensional, which I think that's what Georgia will try to do, because that's what Georgia and Alabama have always tried to do. I think that's the key, though, to stopping Tennessee. And because Hendon Hooker stays in the pocket. He's a pocket passer. Yeah, he gets out and runs, sure, but he's a guy that likes to stay in the pocket. So if you can cut off their run game and then start attacking that pocket and hitting him, I think that's the way you beat him. And I look for Georgia to do that. This is going to be a off the chain environment. Can Georgia though? I don't know what it is. They've been kind of inconsistent, and maybe that's the injuries that's hurting them a little bit. But I think Georgia is going to come to play here. I just don't know if they can stop Tennessee though. I mean, and like I said, losing Smith's big, and Tennessee, and that somebody has to prove to me that they can be stopped. Mm-hmm. And until that happens, I got to roll with them. So I'm gonna go with Tennessee pulling the upset here, and I think it's gonna be a heck of a game. I mean, Georgia's kicker really hasn't been put into the cooker a lot here recently, so that could come into play. I think Georgia's passing game has been pretty good. Their running game has been pretty good, but Tennessee plays the run good. And if Georgia can't really get their run game going, then they kind of stall out. So I like Tennessee in this game. I think it's going to be a high-scoring one. I say something like 45-42, Tennessee.
So I feel like anybody that watches or listens to this show is going to think I am anti-Tennessee. I think Georgia's going to win this one. It being in Athens is a big thing for me. If this was in Knoxville, I would probably be going Tennessee. And I think going into this is going to be one of those situations. I think Stetson Bennett's he's always got that chip on his shoulder. And nobody thinks he's better than Hendon Hooker, and I won't think that coming in. I think Stetson's going to have a big game Saturday. I don't know. I don't have any stats or anything to really back it up. It's a gut feeling I have. And I think that the fact is that now I think they're going to be angry because of the whole deal. They're going to use that ranking. So I think it's close. I think Georgia's going to score a lot more than what they're accustomed to doing in big games. I think it's like a 35-31 game. I think they slow Tennessee enough. But I think Georgia wins this one. But it's going to be big. We're going to find out, can Stetson Bennett go toe-to-toe in a shootout situation?
So, Phillip, you're going with your gut, not the analytics?
Yep.
Come on, man. Does anybody do that anymore?
No. Well, you know what? And I know it was last year, and this is this year. But I'm kind of also, until somebody proves they can beat Georgia, I'm like, would you stopping Tennessee's offense? To me, Georgia, they're the man until it's like, what did Ric Flair? To beat a man, you got to beat the man. Yeah. And right now, Georgia's the man. I'm going that way, but I wouldn't be shocked if Tennessee wins this one either. That's the whole thing with me too in this one. But I'm just giving that slight edge to Georgia because of that.
Well, I mean, like we've talked about, it's probably going to come down to who makes the most mistakes. I don't know. I'm a believer in that Tennessee offense, especially now they got Cedric Tillman back. I don't know, man. Until they fail me, I'm gonna keep rolling with them.
Yeah, that's and I'm sure if Georgia loses this one and Tennessee wins, I'm going to probably catch it from somebody. It said, "You just hate Tennessee, don't you?" Like, no, it's just kind of these situations. Finally, Alabama will be playing LSU. This is another top 10 matchup. Number 6, Alabama playing number 10, LSU. This is a 6:00 game over on ESPN. So we're probably if you're only watching the Georgia Tennessee game, if people that don't have 2 TV setups, you're going to miss the first quarter because we know the CBS game won't probably be over till 7 o'clock Central Time, the way that goes. But anyways, Alabama, they are a 13.5-point favorite. This one, the over-under is 56.5. And I'm going to let you start this one off, Matt. How do you feel this game goes?
Well, I don't know. I don't trust Alabama's secondary. Okay, and I think when Neighbors and Butte and those guys playing better now, and LSU's offense really looking like it's taking another step, I think they're going to be able to score, and I think Alabama's going to be able to score too. But Jaden Daniels to me is the wild card because that kind of quarterback has always given Alabama's defense problems, and he's playing at a really high level. And like I said, I just cannot trust the Alabama secondary right now. And I do think though Alabama's pass rushers can affect this game because LSU's pretty young at a couple of spots on the offensive line. And for that reason right there, I'm going to kind of lean to Alabama winning a tight game. I know the environment's going to be off the hook, but Alabama typically plays well in Baton Rouge, and I'm going to lean with them pulling out a tight game here and kind of regaining control of the SEC West behind Bryce Young. I think Gibbs is going to have a big game against. I mean, if Robbie Ashford can throw for 300 something yards against LSU's secondary, what can Bryce Young do?
Goodness,
You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? I mean, and I do think too that guy BJ Argilleri for LSU, Alabama's going to have to key on him because that guy in big games he makes plays, and so they're going to have to keep an eye on him at all times. But I like Alabama going in and getting a win here. I'll say high scoring game. I think it'll be 38-34, something like that.
Yeah, I'm going with Alabama too. And the thing I'm looking forward to seeing with this game with Alabama, how do they react playing on the road? Because lately, when they've gone on the road in these big games, they have not looked like the Alabama we're accustomed to seeing the last year and a half. The penalties in Texas and against Tennessee, will they be disciplined? And will Bryce Young? I think he will. He'll have to put the Superman cape on again in this one. And you're right. Ojulari can get to the quarterback, and Alabama's offensive line has not been great the last year and a half either. But those linebackers and Will Anderson versus what Jaden Daniels is doing as a runner, that's the matchup I think Alabama can really win there and against the offensive line. I'm with you 1% on that matchup, and that's a big reason why I'm going to go with Alabama to win this one as well. I'll probably go like a 31-28 type of game, come down to the wire. So and that's kind of where I'm sitting on that one. But it's going to be interesting. I just want to see Alabama, can they shake off that the way they've been playing on the road lately? That's kind of a big thing for me in this one.
Well, yeah, and it's going to be big at night, playing in that environment because you know them LSU folks, they're going to be rowdy.
Yeah,
And
they're not going to have any assistance in that before they get into the stadium. Now,
yeah, they're going to have that beer and whiskey flowing down there, buddy. I mean, it's going to be loud. So the offensive line and all that, they're going to have their communication and going in operating at a good level.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. This is going to be. I think this is going to be a great Saturday, Matt. I think we're going to have some interesting games, and this is going to be a great weekend. Before we get out of here, any other takeaways? Any other thoughts going into Week 10?
I mean, there's still a lot of football left to be played. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to. But I just like the fact that there's some new teams that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in the SEC. It's just not a given that Alabama and Georgia are just going to win it.
Yeah.
And I think that's healthy for the league.
And absolutely, we talked this Alabama-LSU game. Alabama gets through this one. They got to deal with Ole Miss the following week, which will be another big game, which is the 2:30 CBS game the following week. And lastly, Matt, and as I always do, tell people where they can find the lowdownsports.com and everything else you're doing.
Yeah, I'm going to post my rankings. They're going to be up on there, my SEC rankings, and I'm also starting covering Auburn basketball for Field Level Media. So I'll be doing that with them, fieldlevelmedia.com. I also do some Atlanta Falcons stuff there with them. I do some Memphis Grizzlies stuff there with them. They're an up-and-coming company. So, yeah, man, I'm going to be doing that. So getting geared up to start writing about some college hoops. And Auburn's going to be a pretty good team once again. So excited about that. So, yeah, check out lowdownsports.com, and I'll have my national picks up, all the big games of the weekend on Friday.
All right. Sounds good, Matt. Once again, I appreciate you coming on the show every Thursday as we've been doing. We've only got a few more of these left before we're done for the regular season college football. But I always appreciate it, and I'll holler at you next week.